Good afternoon and welcome to this impromptu streaming test with myself, Nathan Oakley, Eleanor, who will be a massive distraction, and we've also got Anthony Riley joining us. How are you doing, Anthony?
I'm looking forward to the eclipse that we're not going to get because the weather's naff, but other than that, I'm good.
You're still going down though, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to go to Holyhead because I didn't get any ballers, so there's no point in me going all that way if there's no ballers coming with me. But I'm going to go and view the same thing, but from somewhere called Pigeon Tower, which is a hell of a lot nearer for me, and I'll probably get a better view of it as well because it's at elevation, so it's up a hill, and it's basically better. It's easier for me, so I'm not going to go all that way if there's no ballers coming. But if they were going to come, then I would have done it, but it's not happening, so no.
Fair enough. So you're just going to look out your window?
No, Pigeon Tower. It's at the bottom of Winter Hill. So Winter Hill's where they broadcast the television signals from. There's a couple of mobile phone masts up there, so it's quite high. It's the place that Stephen Cheatley took his photos of the Isle of Man, and it had Blackpool Tower in the foreground, or rather in the middle ground. So it's the same observation point, but I know from there I've already got photos from there of the sunset before, and I know that I've got a clear line of sight to the horizon. The Isle of Man doesn't get in the way, which is really what I was making sure that we didn't do. So it's just an easy point for me to get to. That's easy for, like I say, it's easy for me to get to. It's not that far away. I'm trying to get Jamie Brown to come with me, but he's not on Skype or he has no way of getting in communication with him because he doesn't have Skype. He doesn't have a mobile phone. He doesn't come online other than when he's on his own hangout. And if you happen to run into him in a chat room, you got to wait between the chats. It's so hard to get in touch with it. It's unreal.
So what was it you wanted to tell me about? Because you said you've got some lenses that you wanted to talk about.
Not so much lenses. It was more before I was a flat earther back in 2015. I don't know if you remember. We had our own eclipse, and the eclipse was basically where what the Americans are getting now. We had one back in 15, and it was the photos that I took. I just wanted to show them to you, and you said, like, do you want to run with it live so we can run it live? But really, yeah, I want to show you the pictures just so that other people can, kind of see what I did before I was a flat earther and see how weird it is now that I am a flat earther and I'm looking at it through a different pair of eyes. It's just interesting. So this is the bit where you're going to have to test your scenes and see whether you can get my... how do I show my desktop on this now?
Just stick it on. I'll just get it on screen. I thought we were going to also try and simulcast. So you're going to stream this as well?
I don't know how to do that. Do you know how to do that?
Just get this conversation that we're having on Skype on screen and just broadcast that. Come here, you. So literally, yeah, just get OBS ready. Oh, I'll stick myself on mute while you fiddle with that.
Okay. All right. So I'm on with Nathan right now. Nathan's broadcasting, and I'm broadcasting too. Nathan's having kiddie issues because he's screamy, so he's on mute.
I've got you up though, so if you were to share Skype screens with me, the audience would get to see them.
Yeah, so I mean, what I've got on my screen now, I've got half my screen split as you on Skype, so I'm seeing myself plus you, and on the other half of the screen, I've got my window browser that I want to share the pictures with, and basically, I'm sharing my desktop, but I don't think your people are going to see that. And you're on mute as well, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you to share your pictures.
Oh, okay. So if I share my screen and sounds, this should then work. If I then click that one. Do you see that? Okay. So essentially, right, 2015. All I'm going to do is show the pictures that I took before I was a flat earther. And on the images, you can see that they're only 1.4 meg files because they were taken on a phone. And I didn't have a decent camera back then. I had no value for one. It was just a webcam. It was just a camera on my phone. 20th of March 15, 08:54 in the morning. So it's basically 5 to 9 in the morning. But look at the time of the last picture that I took. The time of the last one was this one, which was... So it was 8:54 before, and it's now 9:31. So it was a good 30 minutes worth of like messing around with it. And this is obviously, I mean, you can see now I took these quite late into it. I mean, this is one of the pictures of the eclipse. Actually, from inside my house, looking out through double glazing. So you got 2 panes of glass, And then you're looking through clouds, and you're looking through the lens that I've got in my hand, which you'll see in a sec. But as this gradually gets more and more prominent, I realised that it's quite interesting, and I thought I'm going to see if I can capture this outside. So at the minute I'm still messing around inside, which is the same window that I normally present my show from. I mean, that's the view that I have outside my front window. But then I realised that this is actually going dark outside, and I wanted to go outside into the garden. So this is the point where now I'm at the front of the house looking up. So I'm not looking out the window anymore. I'm looking straight outside, and I've got the solar filter in my hand. This is an ND filter. It's essentially the same as a solar filter. Ball earthers won't accept it as a solar filter because it doesn't say the word solar. It's an ND filter, but it's exactly the same thing. It does the same thing. It's just not quite as dark as a solar filter. But to be honest with you, I don't really want it that dark because I want to see more. I don't want to see less. So I took these are the pictures that I took, and all I'm doing is literally holding the lens up in front of the camera. That's it. And there's nothing wrong with that picture from a camera's point of view. I mean, it's quite a good picture, right? So this is what I was taking in 2015. Now, the interesting thing is that there's two things that I didn't do at the time that, thinking back in hindsight, I wish I'd have done. Because one of them is that they tell us that the moon is on the right-hand side of the image and it's passing from the right to the left. Well, you can't see it on the approach, you can't see it whilst it's in picture, and you can't see it as it's leaving, which makes me wonder, is it actually the moon? But the bit I did not do was I didn't look around my horizon to see whether or not the moon was elsewhere in shot, because I just presumed that it was going to be there, and I presumed it was the moon at the time. But now I'm wondering, is it actually the moon, and could the moon be seen elsewhere? Because I've seen evidence that suggests that sometimes the moon is seen elsewhere. So as this thing goes on, I think this is probably the best picture that I took. And I mean, you can see what I'm doing. It's just a filter in front of the camera. That's it. But the other thing that's really interesting is when you're looking at the sun here and you can't see the moon on the approach, or you can't see it when it's leaving, it does block out the light, and it did go dark and silhouette-y. It removed the heat, so it did go cold, and it was quite eerie. I kind of half expected dogs to start screeching in the background, but it didn't happen. It did make me feel a bit weird, actually. But I now consider the possibility that there's nothing passing between the Earth and the sun. There's no celestial body passing between them at all. And I consider the possibility that the sun is literally spinning round and we're seeing the backside of the sun, the part that's not illuminated. Because I don't necessarily think that anything's passing in front of it. We're literally looking at the rear facade of the sun in some weird kind of way. I don't know why, but we can't prove that it's the moon. We should be able to verify that it is actually the moon, and it doesn't appear to be the moon. So the thing I regret is not looking around my horizon to see whether or not I could see anything else other than the point that they were telling me to look at in the sky. But I also I regret, what was the other thing I regret not doing? There was something else that I should have done at the time. I can't remember what my second thing was now, but obviously this is all pre-flat Earth. And now I'm obviously into flat Earth, and I'm looking at this from different angles and different perspectives, and I'm thinking, really, we should be doing more of this kind of stuff, because this is really cool stuff. I mean, it's, for me, right, this new moon, the explanation for why we can't see the moon is because it's a new moon. But you can't say it's the moon unless we can validate it to be the case. It seems to me like it's just like curvature, axial rotation, and gravity, in that they say that there's curvature, they say that there's axial rotation, they say that there's gravity, but we can't see evidence of it, yet they tell us it's there. It's like this. They're saying there's a moon there, but we can't see it. So this is going to go down in my argument data bank as something I'm going to cite to argue against, because you can't say it's the moon if it can't be validated to be the case. They argue that you can't claim Rahu and Ketu because there's no evidence of it. Well, I'm sorry, but you can't claim this is the moon unless there's evidence that proves that it is the moon, because for all intensive purposes, it isn't, because you can't say it's the moon unless we can prove it is. And it's just black. I mean, we should see a black disc on a blue background, and we're not seeing it. If it's a silhouette the way they tell us it's supposed to be, you should see a black silhouette, and we're not seeing that. It's ridiculous. So they were my photos back from the day a few years ago. And it's really, what we need to do really is we all need to look at these observations and see, can we see any evidence of these things happening anywhere else, because we need to see this moon. This moon, I don't believe that it's the moon there. I reckon the moon's elsewhere at the minute, but we can't see it because of cloud cover or whatever. But I just don't accept that it's what we're being told, because you can't have a moon that's not visible. I mean, the moon doesn't disappear in the heliocentric model. It doesn't park its ass in a car park and stay there. The moon is always there. So the moon can't disappear as per their model. And if it was getting sunlight, that sunlight is being reflected off the moon, and we should see at least a crescent of the side of the moon that's getting the sunlight. I mean, it is ridiculous. I mean, I can see that Nathan's now got the child in his arms, and he's off and doing his stuff. But I need to pop out my chat as well to see where I'm at. I've not pulled mine out, but it's not acceptable that the moon disappears on the heliocentric model. I want to see what the explanation is, and I've seen the explanation. It's wholly unpersuasive. The moon should not be disappearing. All right, so I'm going to pop out my own chat. So just bear with me one sec. Right, pop out chat. There we go. So now I can see my chat. Make it bigger. Right. All right, so Nathan's obviously having a hassle there. All right, so who are we left with in the chat? Let's see where I'm up to. Mike's Place, hello again. Not seen you for a while. No, actually, I saw you last night in Sun and Moon. Geo Streamer, yo. Geo, do you know the reason why the moon becomes invisible at a new moon on the heliocentric model? I don't accept that we can't have the moon invisible. I don't accept it. It's ridiculous. We can see the moon during the totality phase of the eclipse. How can people do it all the time? You just have to overexpose massively. Well, I can overexpose the camera. That's fine. We can see the moon during the totality phase of the eclipse. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that. Gio, do you wanna join on Skype and you can explain why it is that the moon goes dark in the new moon phase? Because I'm not persuaded that it does. It's wholly unpersuasive evidence, because it should be getting direct sunlight from the moon. Sorry, should be getting direct sunlight from the sun, because the light that hits the moon is less than because the light that hits the moon is less than the Rayleigh scattering in the atmosphere. So that means we should still be able to see it, right? Let's see if we'll get Geo to add. Where are you, Geo? There we go. Let's see if you'll add. I'm sorry, but I can't join. All right, Geo can't join. All right, so Geo, I mean, this is another issue. I mean, this Rayleigh scattering, light's supposed to travel in straight lines, and we're not supposed to see Rayleigh scattering because that's not part of the heliocentric model. The heliocentric model is that light from the sun travels in straight lines, and it's only when you have curvature, when you start talking about curved lines and bent lines. So Rayleigh scattering, it's not part of the heliocentric model. That the heliocentric model is that the light travels in straight lines, because if Rayleigh scattering was part of the heliocentric model, it would be the case that there would be no shadow cast, because Rayleigh scattering would minimize and reduce it and forget about it. There wouldn't be a shadow. So I'm Nathan, are you back? No? Yes? No? Okay. Poor child. So yeah, so tonight then what I'm gonna do at tea time, I'm gonna have an early tea, and then I'm gonna go up to Winter Hill. And to be honest, the weather's the worst I've seen it. It was the weather forecast last night said that today was going to be really good. 22 degrees it said, and it said it was going to be overcast in the morning to early afternoon, and it would be clear by the evening. I promise you, it's naff outside right now. There is no holes in the clouds whatsoever. It's just a complete blanket of grey. It's almost as if they've intentionally pulled a blanket over us so that we can't see shit, which I wouldn't put it past them, but it's just weird that we see nothing. So it's kind of like, well, maybe they've oh, I'm very quiet. Is it because I need to turn my mic up? That might be better. Is that better? So yeah, I can't see any logical reason for why the Rayleigh scattering would explain why the moon is not visible when they normally cite straight line light. We don't have light in bent lines. Micah's place, Naffin, Norfolk 2. Yeah, it must have been chem sprayed. I mean, there's just not a single. I mean, the sky is grey. I mean, it's technically daylight, but it looks more like nighttime. It's going that dark. I'm even wondering, is it even worth going up Pigeon Tower? Because it's that bad, the coverage. You can't even see any trace of where the sun is supposed to be. It's ridiculous. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll flick on for my thing. I'll flick on, which is the one that I want. Yeah, that one. If I transit that one. And I'll turn this. And look at that! Look at that sky. I know it's like focused on the thing, but it's just pure grey. It's ridiculous. There's just no sky visible. It's just a blanket of cloud. How shit's that? I mean, we're supposed to be seeing the eclipse or trying to get the eclipse, and this is what we end up with. My question is it intentional or is it accidental? Because it really doesn't seem me. Oh, there's the old man and his old wife. So, I don't know what other English people are on the chat right now, because if there are other people, it makes sense that there should be somewhere in England that we've got a gap in the clouds. But it appears that that's not what's happening. It appears that the whole sky is covered with cloud, which is naff. I want to see is a particular person online. I'm going to have a look, because while Nathan's doing what he's doing. No, he's not. He's off. So there's no point in. I was just seeing if somebody was online because I was going to bring him into the chat. Sarana, come to Wales, blue skies and sunshine. Whereabouts in Wales is it blue skies? Because Sarana, if you're able, if you've got a P900, when the sun's beginning to set, if you look down where the sun's going down, there's a particular point where. Oh, hang on. Let's just knock that sound off. There's a particular point where the moon should transit over the face of the sun, even from our perspective. I'm confident that there will be a viewing. I'm near Bath. Will you not be going to Wales, Anthony? No, because to be honest, the weather's that bad. I don't really want to go all that way because it's like a 2.5 hour drive for it to be shit. Because it's good. The forecast is shit. South Wales, clear skies and sunshine. Sarana, maybe get your camera out and go and look at the sun setting in the west, because we should see evidence of the, according to the predictable model and the extremely intuitive model. Their model tells us that we can see some of the eclipse. It's not true to say that we see nothing. So Ian, if you should do it as well. We should see some of this evidence. It should be there because we need to see this, whether this moon transits the sun or not. And we know it's not going to do it, but it would be really useful if there are people with clear blue skies could watch the sun setting. It's about half an hour before the sun actually gets to the horizon. If you can get out there with your camera and start observing, see whether or not you can see it, it'd be really cool, because you're probably going to get the weather that I really need and don't seem to be getting. And the forecast over in Holyhead is terrible. What we were trying to do, what I actually want to do while Nathan's doing his thing, I want to see, if I go to Nathan's channel, do I see the same thing? I think we're both live at the same time. Yes. I also noticed that, have you noticed that in England, we're not being told that we can see the eclipse? In England, we're being told that you need to be in America to see the eclipse, which is technically true, but they're not telling us that you can see the eclipse in England. They're just lying by omission. In other words, don't look at the sky because we can't see nothing. Look, it's the Americans that can. It's not true. We can see part of the eclipse. You do have to be on the far side and like on the western side, but nonetheless.
For me, this is the main point of the day, because it basically you're testing the model. Their model predicts that we should see an eclipse. If we see one,
Yeah.
it confirms their model. I mean, that's all it does. It confirms their model. But I think it's highly unlikely, A, because it's so cloudy, and B, because I just don't think that the sun is the distances that they say it is. So therefore, I don't think it's feasible that it can match that model.
I agree. I don't think that it appears that the child has settled down a little bit.
I know, man. She had full-blown hysteria. Never, ever experienced that before. Literally screaming like I've never heard her scream before. Unreal. Second you press the start button.
What's her name?
Sorry?
What's her name?
Eleanor.
Eleanor. Oh yeah, I remember now. Eleanor. Yeah, and it's emphasised as well, just as per the movie, right?
As per which movie?
Gone in 60 Seconds. It's not Eleanor. It's Eleanor.
Oh, right. Yes, she's named after the car in Gone in 60 Seconds, correct.
Yes. Well, I don't know. I'm going to go
Can
up
you
Pigeon Tower.
stop screen sharing? Because when I put you up now, all I've got is me and a load of photo files.
You want me to stop screen sharing?
Yeah, just so I can see you, because I can't see you at the moment. Just a load of photos. Oh, I can see a tiny little you in the box. Oh,
okay, I can flick over to that one if you want. Oh, is that working? Why is that not working? It's because Skype's using the camera, isn't it? Okay, I can't flick onto that camera because it's being used. Actually, no, it should still work. Let me flick over to that one and then flick over back to that.
And this is what it's for. This is kind of, it's not really much of a show. This is just a technical exercise. Me, because I've just, got all this kit back together. And I've done a stream of my own, but not with a guest or a Skype call in this case. And I just want to make sure it works, because the worst thing I can do, I mean, Helena Phoenix is probably going to be a couple of weeks, because I think she's in the middle of a house move or something. But, you can imagine a big build-up to a show like that. You do it, and then you've got no sound, or, I can cope with doing a fairly rough around the edges show where you're testing your mic and testing your camera and making sure, because you've got two cameras. That's why I explained to you before the show, that the view you're getting on this, where you can actually see my camera on the broadcast, my mic on the broadcast, is actually a completely different camera, because once you tie up the camera for OBS, you then don't have a camera for Skype, so any caller doesn't get to see what you're broadcasting. They just get to hear you, which is fine, but it throws a lot of people off. They go, I can't see you. It's like, yeah, I know you can't see me, but to get around that, I just left the other camera wired up, and then you get this second view, which I haven't bothered zooming in or anything, but I may do in the future, because it obviously gets broadcast occasionally, but it's just nowhere near, the quality of the camera you recommended, which I'll stick on now. I mean, this camera is just fantastic. The picture quality of it is I couldn't quite believe it, considering it's a webcam, but I suppose it's got a 4K sensor, so it should be good. You'd hope it was good.
Yeah. Can we do a bit of bashing, a bit of Ball Earth of bashing?
Do what you like, but can you get your camera back up?
Sure. The only trouble is, though, then it's showing me on my feed, on my live feed, but it's probably better to show. How can I do it so that it's both?
Well, you've got two cameras, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just set the Skype input to be the second camera.
That means I've got to physically move it. Let me leave. I've not done this yet. I was trying to do this with Jamie, but he said that his nan felt that it was a bit suspicious, so he never bothered coming up, which I thought was a bit mad. But in any event, let's try it.
Who said what was suspicious?
I invited Jamie up to do exactly what we're doing now, and he said that his nan said it was a bit suspicious, but I didn't know what he meant by it. So let's just try this. This one's called that one. Right. So that gives me that transition on my own channel. But on my own, right, so on my own channel, I want the normal screen share, which is this one.
Why are you work out
how? Because my own
toys.
Right.
So you're fiddling with your toys for your audience, and I've set up like a guess the show. Let's see if I can find that. So don't know, when you watch IPS's chats, he just has a screen capture of a load of photo memes that people have sent him. And
Okay.
what I did quite some time ago, if I can transition across to this. So this is like what I used to have as the backdrop when I was screen sharing, which is like, what would you call it? Guess the movie or guess the TV show. It's just like screen grabs of a film, but without the logo. Obviously, some of them have got the logo, so... but yeah, on the whole, they're just like, you don't know what the film is, so you guess the movie. And I'll stick that up when I've got nothing else to say. And then I'll just transition between them and people can guess them. Typical second one that goes up has got the name of the title in the movie. In that sod's law.
So you want me to play my camera. So which is the one that you want me to do? Is that what you want me to do there?
So if I'm on me at the moment, and then I will show my audience some of my screen grab stuff just to see that it works. But if I go back to you, what's it for me? It's my projector. Let's do that. Oh, projector with a load of chat over it. That's a mess. Let's go back to the projector. The webcam, that'll do. Yeah, so what I've got at the moment is a load of, because you're still screen sharing on Skype.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So because you're screen sharing, it's sharing what you see of me with my nasty, horribly framed picture as opposed to my beautifully framed picture. You know, but that's fine. That's not what I want. What I'm hoping is if you stop screen sharing on Skype, I'll at least get one of your cameras, regardless how rubbish the angle is. Does that make sense?
Well, I suppose what I could do then is I could do... Yeah, so I could do...
Just stop screen sharing.
No, because it works for me if I do that.
Works for you.
Because like, you're on screen, aren't you? If I'm screen sharing, what I need to do is get that one to
on
work.
Skype. So if you stop screen sharing on Skype,
right? How does that work for you? Does that work for you?
At the moment, all I've got on this view is me.
Okay.
But not you.
I'm just trying to work out how to get... Because I know what it is. I've got that screen up there that I want an image of me to get on. I suppose I could do it like this, though, couldn't I? Does that work?
Yeah, that works. That's got you on it.
Happy.
It's a
that'll work.
A bit
okay.
rough.
See, that's what I'm... This is confusing, actually, because how do I even do this now? Because this isn't even working. This is really confusing to try and do a multiple broadcast at the same time. See, the image on the right-hand screen is what mine... This one here now. This is what my feed's getting. Yeah?
Yeah,
but
so you're getting
also,
me with my mic and then you on the right-hand side.
Yeah. It's just
So,
it's
just
weird
my feed you're messing up.
It's working now anyway. It's working.
You've got a beautiful shot. Look, you've got you on the left, you on the right, and me on the left in your broadcast.
Yeah.
Other than you've got a load of computery stuff under the bottom of it.
Yeah, that's OBS, isn't it?
But my broadcast, I've got like 1, 2, 3, 4 of me and 4 of you.
Right, let me have a look at what your broadcast is. I'll do it on the other screen. Let me have a look.
The easiest thing to do is just stop sharing. On Skype, just literally stop sharing. So if you hover over Skype, there you go. There you go. Now I get a... Although your camera's not on that view. So your camera's off now. Of course, yeah. So on Skype, you now need to set up your camera so that it's a different camera for Skype.
Oh, right, okay. That can work. So if I do that, what do you see now then? Your webcast...
Right, at the moment, what I've got is just your avatar face.
I get it. So what I need to do is go into the device settings then.
Yeah.
And change,
depending on which version of Skype,
that,
it's either along the top or you have to click your face if it's the app version.
Right, does that now work? Can you see me again now?
No. Not yet.
You should be able to.
Still got your avatar.
What? Hang on. Do you see it now?
Nope.
On mine, it's saying that it's visible.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I just got your avatar.
I reckon your chat can see it. Ask your chat. Can they see me right now?
I can see what they can see. Definitely not. Just your avatar.
But how is that working then? Because in my screen with you on it,
you can see your other camera.
Yeah.
Let's just see if I don't think it's. I wouldn't have thought it's my end. No, it's just try turning your camera off and on one more time.
Right, now it's gone. And I'll turn it back on. Yeah, according to my Skype, I'm being broadcast to you. You should see me.
Nah. Let's just try ending the call and calling you back. Let's try that. Dun, 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 dun.
Right, so let's
Tense
see what we
moments.
get. Do you see me now?
Beautiful, beautiful. See now,
Yes.
that's a top quality. No one's going to fuss about that on my presentation. That looks awesome.
And that's I'm getting real bad feedback.
Yeah, that's just because my kid's snoring and keeping the gate open. Sorry.
That's okay. Well, my lot can see mine, and you can see yours, and I'm just getting real bad feedback. Can you not fix that feedback?
Yeah, it's like I say, I'll see if I can turn the gate up a bit, see if I can overcome her snoring. I may as well show you the audience, that is what I'm actually doing. So, how do I do it? TV, screen, and webcam. There we go, it's transition. So now you can have, this is my OBS view, and obviously I've got, bring my mouse over, oh it was over already.
Shout out to
bring
Good
up
Times
voice
for all in
meter.
chat.
So
I've
on
also
voice
got
meter,
Rich,
I've got a little gate,
Mr.
and you can probably see this underneath Anthony is Skype. So if you can say something just a second, Anthony.
Yo, yo, yo.
And then what I'm going to do is turn this gate up just a tiny smidge, if I can. There we go. And then I'm going to gate Skype a little bit, and that should solve the problem of... That's what I did last time anyway. It's just like with Google Hangouts, if you do talk over the other person, both gates are open, so you end up inevitably getting feedback.
Yeah. So I've got Zach Zabala in chat, Good Times for All. I've also got Rich, Thrive and Survive. Have you spoke with Rich before?
I've not spoken with Rich before. I tried to get in touch with him a couple of years ago to do an interview with him, and just for some reason, every time I tried to get in touch with him, his email box would say that it was completely full, and I'd never be able to get a message through to him. It didn't seem to matter what means I tried. It just wasn't meant to be. But it's one of those, it fell on the wayside, and I never bothered chasing him up again. My bad. But no, I haven't.
He's like, getting in touch with Rich is like finding curvature. The more you look for it, the more you try and get in touch with him, the less you can find it.
That's certainly what I found.
He's so difficult to get hold of. Last time I spoke to him, he had he's got a Yeti like you and I have, and his lead that was going into it was acting daft, and he needs to get a new lead. So whilst he was waiting for a new lead, he got another mic, which is a NAF one, and it squeals and it makes loads of noises, and it's no good for him. And I said, Rich, please go and get yourself a proper lead. So hopefully he's coming back with some proper lead, and hopefully I'll be able to get him to add to chat. He's going to try. He's just asking me to hold. So hopefully he's got his lead. He's going to plug it in, and we'll get him in and we'll say hello. Because I'm dying to know.
Did you have him on the same thing you had me on? Because he had his. I noticed on one of his recent videos, he had the Yeti pointing towards him.
Well, I did tell him, yeah. I've told him that in the past. He forgets about it all the time, though. Right, he's hooked up. Let's try adding him to this chat. Let's see if we can get him in.
Excuse me.
Right. So if we add a person to this call, add people to this call. Now, where is he? What's he on my list as? Is it Rich? Where is he? Where is he? Rich? Is it? I can't remember what he's in. Is it Mr.? Maybe it's Mr. No.
What is it, about 10 a.m. there? Something like that. 10:30.
Pardon?
What is it, about 10:30 in the morning there?
Yeah, 9:30, I think.
9:30.
What's he in my thing as? Rich, what are you in Skype as? I can't remember what your name is on Skype. Oh, there we go. Just hit him. There we go. Let's see if he joins. He should join now. He should be in. I think, is he in? He's joined. Can we hear him? Are you there, Rich? He's opening up Skype. I see him as in the chat. Do you see him as on the chat? His name's at the top, right?
Can't see him. I might open my chat room though and have a look what's going on. My chat room.
Shout out to Brenda in chat. Hi, moron. She says, hi, moron.
I can't quite read it at this distance, and I can't do much about it with my kid snoozing on my shoulder, so... Damn. Things. I'll see if I can bring it up on the phone so I can actually read it. Can you hear her snoring?
Saying something's bullshit doesn't make it so. That's on my data bank of wobbly sounds now for Brenda, because saying something's curved doesn't make it so as well. I don't know where Rich is. Let me add people to this call. He should be able to automatically join this now, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he may just join in a few minutes.
Yeah, because he's not even in the list anymore, so I don't know how he's going to... It's down to him now to get in. Right, let me see where we're at. Right, he's not commented since. So I'm guessing he's opening up Skype still.
Right, let's do some shout-outs. Vinegar Strokes, how you doing? Cat Earth, good to see you. Robo Shill Tithead, good to see you. Martin Liedke, pleasure to have you here, my friend. Enjoying your shows. The Flat Earth Underground, thank you very much for joining my show. Spherical Earth, good to see you. Harvey Chuckles, long time no see. Thanks for coming. That's we got. Andre Z, good to see you. Lottie Says, hello. Ping Pong, great name, hello. Jonathan Roberts, another person long time no see. Met him a few times at some of the different meets.
Yeah, that's working well for me.
Skyfly Bro, hello.
You've got Skyfly in your chat.
Yeah,
He's normally on my side of the fence. What's going on there?
Daniel Reza, thanks for joining us. The Lighthouse Keeper Conspiracy. Hello, Captain Bullshit, good to see you. Another videographer. Magic Penis Hamburger. Hello. That it?
Yeah,
oh, Zoe's here.
Sonic
Hello, Be Here and Love. And Gurr. One of the 24-hour sun people. Sailman.
Scouse Anarchist.
Good to see
Scouse
you.
Anarchist says, lovely weather in the north of England, typical doom and gloom. Do you know what? It's one of the darkest days I've ever seen in summer. It's ridiculous. It's like a winter's day.
At the end, the Astral Thief is also here. When I was having hysteria from my little sprog, I heard you saying about when you were out making some observations pre-flat Earth, you kind of think about it now and go, God damn, I wish I'd I wish I'd done this, or not at all is how it was kind of what I was desperately trying to say with the mic on mute, because that's the biggest plus of flat Earth, the fact that you can kind of consider some of the things you've looked at and experienced, have a eureka moment about those because you've already experienced them, but also think, I could look at it in this way now, I could look at it in that way now, and you go back and revisit a lot of the things that, it's like an old computer game that suddenly has all of its life breathed back into it.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I mean, I wish I could relive that solar eclipse now and do something slightly different, but it is what it is. But the reality is that moon, I'm sorry, but you can't claim that we live on a curved ball that rotates and spins and axial rotation, gravity and all that, in the same way that you can't curve that the moon disappears on the heliocentric model because it's in the new moon phase. I'm sorry, that doesn't wash with me. That moon is always supposed to be visible because it's always meant to be in the sky in the heliocentric model, and I can't think of any optical explanation for why it would no longer be visible. I know it's something to do with this Rayleigh scattering, according to GeoStreber, but the Rayleigh scattering isn't how they tell us on the heliocentric model how the light works, as it travels in straight lines. So on the heliocentric model, this Rayleigh scattering is not the explanation that their model does, because if Rayleigh scattering was true, there wouldn't even be a shadow cast. Okay, try again. No camera, though. Rich, I think you need to join the Skype chat yourself, because you've had the invite. I think you just need to rejoin it yourself manually, because I don't think I can re-add you to it if I've already sent you the invite, because you are joined to the call. Scout Anarchist, look at my above comment. I said England. Yeah, England's weather's naff right now. Have you guys checked the track of totality in today's eclipse? Well, how do we check it? I mean, I know what it's meant to be. Oh, are you on mute, Nathan?
Yeah, I'm just talking to myself. I'm thinking if I send him a group message, I can maybe get him to see the actual chat and then just click on join call.
Yeah, you should really be on it. Ah, right. I've got him asking help here. Right, so what I need to do then is I need to kick him from this chat and then re-invite him.
Cool.
But I don't know how to do that.
We'll just end the call and then just start a new group conversation.
Oh. I hear him.
Oh, there we go.
There I am.
You are, but you're very low.
Okay, hold on. Maybe I can turn it up a little bit. How's that?
Right, I can hear you, but I need to enable desktop sound so that they can hear you. Right. So maybe... Yeah, we can hear you. I can hear you on my stream, and Nathan, you should get it too.
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing, Rich?
Awesome. And I can see you now.
Happy days.
Nathan, anyway. Hello, Nathan.
How's it going?
Good.
Excellent stuff.
It only took 2 years, right?
Say again?
It only took 2 years, right?
Exactly. Only took 2 years to actually have a chat with you finally. But you're putting out some videos that get huge views. You know, you're a big flat earther. There's no two ways about that.
What's that again?
You're a big flat earther, not physically. You know, in terms of the amount of people that watch your stuff, you get thousands of views.
I'm lucky.
Yeah, it's good content.
The other good. I think it's true to describe Rich as like it's easier to find curvature than it is to get in touch with Mr. Thrive and Survive because you're never around. You're always busy with something. You're either in hospital or your PC's broke or your microphone's broke or this, that, the other. It's so difficult to get in touch with Rich. It's unreal.
My family can't even get in touch with me.
Yeah, that's probably intentional though.
Yes, you got that right in most cases.
So right at this moment, I just want to give a shout out to Sean Hufford because he's probably not in chat, and if he is in chat, he'll dare not type. Because every time Sean thinks that every time I get a shout out from Thrive and Survive, I mean, this is his thing. Nathan, I'm sure you've heard this.
No, go ahead.
Nathan, you won't have heard that because I've not got sharing system sounds on, but it's just that comment. That's that comment of Sean saying that a big name flat earther and Anthony just sucked his dick. So I like to credit Sean with that because it makes me laugh every time I hear it. I can just imagine him sat there right now going, "Why is he online with him?" Ah! It's funny.
So what are your plans for the eclipse, Rich?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Tell me about the eclipse, Rich. What are your plans?
Well, at sunrise, I took a bunch of pictures this morning, and I tried to block the sun several different ways. I'll have to analyze the pictures later, trying to find the moon somewhere in the sky, but visually, I couldn't see it. So I don't know for sure until I look at the photos, but I tried every which way to block the sun and not block the sun. And nothing in that part of the sky at all.
Rich, do you know how the heliocentric model explains the new moon in terms of how we're not able to see it?
Yeah, there's in that case the sun being behind the moon from our perspective, since they say the moon is reflecting the sunlight, since the sun is behind the moon, it's actually lighting up the back part of the moon and not the front part. That's why we don't see it.
But when the moon's approaching the sun from the side, before it starts to intersect, the side of the moon that we can see is getting some light. We should see a crescent element of the light that's hitting the side of the moon. It's only when it gets directly in front of it that we shouldn't see the sun, right?
You would think so, but of course they explain it on their model. You could never actually prove it. You know, if you're 235,000 miles away and then the sun is 93 million miles away, even when it's 10 degrees off from direct line, you're not going to see any light according to their model, and you could never prove it.
Yeah, and this is ridiculous. Can you imagine if it was the flat earthers that were trying to tell the ball earthers that this was our model and that the light from the sun doesn't get reflected off the moon, even though it's right in front of it almost? They would never accept that as an explanation for why we can't see the moon if we were trying to persuade them that that's what it was. Yet we're expected to accept it from them when it's the opposite way around. That doesn't wash with me. If we tried to argue that as flat earthers, it
Rich's counter argument then, because we said before Rich joined the call, shouldn't it just be massively backlit? Pretty much like an eclipse. But why don't we see it in that way? I mean, I understand the heliocentric explanation. I just want to know what your thoughts are.
Who, me?
No, Rich.
On being backlit?
Why isn't the moon in reality? Why don't you think we see it backlit?
I actually think if their model was true, we would see it the way we do see it, where we don't see the moon when it's that close to the sun.
See, I don't agree. I think if their model was the way we're supposed to see it, as the moon is getting close towards the sun, we should see a crescent shape on the moon, because that's the side that's getting the direct sunlight, and it would only be a little bit, but we would see the outline of the sun. The outline of the moon. But we're not seeing anything. It's like it's not even that. It's honestly, if somebody asks me, is it the moon or something? I don't even think there's anything passing in front of the sun. It doesn't appear to be anything. It appears that the sun is phasing itself.
Well, what they will say is 2 days later, when we see the first crescent of the moon, is exactly what you're describing. It just has to get so many degrees away before you can see it. But the BS there is the crescent doesn't point to the sun. It's always higher, and if you took the middle of the crescent and drew an arrow across where the sun should be, it's not there. The sun's farther down, lower, and it's off about 20 degrees, and it's off the whole time. The whole time the moon's in the sky, the sun is not opposite of the moon the way it should be, the way they say it should reflect back to us.
So what about the possibility that, I was speaking to Daz, the cameraman, who's a ball earther, a big ball earther protagonist. He's got a few thousand subs, and he was having a discussion with people that buy into the Nibiru stuff. And I don't particularly buy into the Nibiru stuff, but he was saying that the Nibiru guys are all adamant that it could be a brown dwarf that's passing between the sun and the earth. And I said, yeah, but you can't argue that because that's not even part of your model. And he was like, no. He said, but that is a possible cause. And I said, no. Your model doesn't include brown dwarfs, so you can't argue the possibility that might be true, because that's directly contradicting your own model. So that you're not having that. But with regards to the possibility that it's a brown dwarf, what has anybody got any views on that, or even Rahu and Ketu? What do you think?
I have an opinion on a brown dwarf. It's stupid in their model. Just think of the gravitational pull you'd have with the sun and a brown dwarf all lined up in the same direction. We'd have tides covering the east coast of the United States and covering half of the UK when that happened.
Well, in their model, it doesn't even exist.
I'd agree with that. It's total nonsense in their model. It would screw everything up completely. So it just doesn't fit into the heliocentric model. I don't like it either, because of a statement that Anthony just made a second ago, which is to say, and this is based on the lunar, the blood moon eclipse as opposed to a solar eclipse, but that it certainly appeared to my eyes exactly as Anthony just described, which is to say that it didn't seem like there was any interaction with another body. It didn't seem like a shadow creeping over it. It seemed like it was something it was doing itself, and I was looking at it in detail through a telescope. It just seemed like it was having it wasn't a secondary thing having an effect on it. And I've seen a couple of solar eclipses, and I would say the same thing. It doesn't look like the moon's passing in front of it. It just doesn't.
Now, and if what I'm looking for today is not the people that necessarily have the total eclipse, but even where I'm at, I think I'm supposed to have about 60% here. The shadow is not going to match the shadow of the moon. In other words, they're supposed to be exactly the same. The moon 400 times smaller, but 400 times closer. So the arc of the moon should equal exactly what the arc of the sun is. And when we get about 50 or 60% eclipsed, whether you're in the path of totality or not, that shadow is much more elongated. It's not the right arc angle is what I'm saying. It's more flat. and that shadow changes as it goes over the sun from start to finish. That angle changes, which you're not going to get from a fixed body in the universe called the moon.
What do you think about the possibility that there's nothing transiting the sun from our perspective, and it is the sun itself doing its own phase, its own? Well, I don't know. Could it be the sun itself and no other celestial body that's causing what we see?
I think the sun could be winking out magnetically, if that makes any sense.
I agree. The sun's in a state where it's described as it's going to sleep. This eclipse apparently marks the turning point in a solar cycle where literally the sun starts to go to sleep. If you go on YouTube right now and search for "Is the sun going to sleep?", research what this solar cycle is with regards to the sun, and you'll see that there are two congruent cycles that happens. It's one that's every 125 years or 175 years where the sun will do a rotation of a cycle, but also every 400 years at the same time, the sun will do the same thing. And we're at the crest where it's the 400 and the 175 years overlap now. It becomes basically, it looks like we're going to be going into a cold patch. Not an ice age, but not far off an ice age. So all this bullshit about global warming and all that, they're not going to be able to. This is the reason why they're doing the chemtrails. If there is an ulterior motive, they're trying to artificially keep the Earth warm because they're trying to tax us. And that's why they're putting all the magnesium in the atmosphere to reflect the light back towards the Earth, because they don't want to be losing the Earth and the light and the warmth, because then they can't charge us the carbon taxing. So the chemtrail argument is actually they're trying to keep the atmosphere warm so that we can get charged for it. It's complete and utter fake bullshit, but that appears to be the case. The sun appears to be going into a state called sleep, where it's going to go cold, and anything north of the Tropic of Cancer or anything south of the Tropic of Capricorn is going to feel the pinch. We're going to get cold. So that makes England somewhere you don't want to be for the next, 50, 70 years until this cycle gets out of the way. So if that is true, you'll notice in the next few years, if they are chemtrailing to try and keep the atmosphere warm, you will notice that there's a massive drop very quickly once the sustainability of chemtrailing is lost. And then it's going to go cold instantly, pretty much overnight, and it'll stay cold for years and years and years. I remember when I was in school, we used to get told that the River Thames in London, it used to freeze over at the end of the Edwardian and the beginning of the Victorian era. The Thames used to freeze over, and we're going back to that period right now, and this eclipse is supposed to mark the beginning of it. Based on the cyclical nature of the sun and the cycle that the sun is in, it's telling us that it's going to go into a state where it's going very cold, it's going to sleep, and we're all going to struggle. And what the big consequence of it will be famine. A lot of crops will fail, and people will literally starve to death. We'll get Ethiopia on a wide scale because our harvested plants are not going to be producing the goods if they're still. Basically, we're going to wipe out a shed load of crops. And it's not good. But look into it in terms of the solar cycle. It seems to be this is the beginning of it for the sun now for the next 70 years or so.
There's no doubt about that. We're right on the cusp of going right back into what I don't know what those two eras you were talking about, where they end and begin, but in the 1600s, we had a near ice age or mini ice age, and that's where we're heading right back to. I've told you before, I've studied weather since I was a kid. I used to study climatological data, and I've known since the late 60s that right around this time period, we'd be heading right back into the 1600s again. It's just cycles. It just goes over and over and over again, and we're not heading warm, that's for sure. We're about to switch back over to cold. One thing I did notice this morning, of course, is just my eyes, my anecdotal looking at things. It looked different to me this morning than it has since I was a kid. When I was a kid, the sun always looked yellow to me, but it slowly but surely turned white. This morning, it looked yellow again. Not just yellow as far as like a sunrise yellow, but the whole sky looked different. It looked more like I remember when I was a kid growing up. But that could just be me. I wasn't even thinking of the eclipse. Then I remembered, it was like, oh yeah, I need to be taking pictures of the sun. So I don't know. But we are definitely heading back to cold. This is why the seed banks and all that, they know.
Yeah, I agree. The sun is in a cycle. And evidentially speaking, the evidence is there to support there being a big cool down. And I mean, you don't have to be a genius to just, if you know where to look, and just type in YouTube, is the sun going to sleep? The sun is going to sleep. The evidence does support it. The cyclical nature of the sun tells us that we're going back into a very cold period. So all this bullshit about carbon taxing and pollution and carbon emissions, it's not true. None of it's true. And we'll see it. We'll
Money
see
grab.
it coming. We'll see it coming in the next, probably 6 months. We're probably going to get quite a cold winter this time, and we've not had snow in the UK for at least 5 years, not proper snow for at least 5 years, and that tells you that global warming, if you buy into the global warming thing, is true. But also it tells us that the average temperature is higher, but it's not necessarily because of global warming. It's because we've had the peak of the warm weather caused by the sun's activity. We've had that peak, and now for the next 70 years or so, maybe 65, maybe 80, depends. It's going to go into a period of solar decline, and we are not going to get the same level of warmth that we've had. And this global warming thing is going to be bullshit. They're not going to be able to get away with it for any longer, because people are going to realize that, hey, it's not actually getting warmer. We're now going to go cold.
Yeah,
Have
and
either
the
of you
speed
been
up
paying
is gonna
attention
absolutely shock
to
you.
Stephen Chess and what he's been doing recently?
No,
Stranger
go on,
XX.
Go on, go on.
Well, he's been
tell
making
us about
proper
it.
weather predictions. So about 2 years ago, he started tracking exactly like you say. It's cyclical. You know, you can monitor this stuff and get an idea of what's going to happen on a day-to-day basis. And last year, after tracking it and figuring out how his weather works, or starting to figure out maybe 10 or 12 of the variables, this year he did it, you know, for real, and started actually making predictions and saying to people, this is what the weather will do today. But to the point where he was saying it on an almost hourly basis. You know, so on his video logs that he's just started making in the last couple of months, it'd say, you know, this is what will happen in 5 hours or at 3 p.m. and then it'd be out by an hour or two. I mean, that's how accurate he's getting. Just astonishing, the work that he's doing. I mean, at the moment he's polishing up his videography skills, and they will get better. But you know, it's one of those. He's actually putting out the material and showing how he's able to predict the weather, and he tosses it all out. You know, he tosses out everything the Met Office would use. It's just irrelevant to his predictions. It's all, or most of it, based on the sun and moon position.
Yeah, I mean, I've got Brenda Van Assen in chat saying the sun is not going to sleep, idiot. It actually is. If you look at the actual empirical nature of the weather records that have been collected in and documented for hundreds of years, literally 200 and something years, the sun is definitely, we are at the crest of the sun going to sleep. Now, if you don't accept that, I don't give a shit. It's there for you to see for yourself. If you refuse to check it, that's fine. You can laugh at me if you want to. I don't care. The evidence is there that the sun is at the beginning of the period where it's going to really start to cool down. And if you're above the Tropic of Cancer or below the Capricorn, you're going to struggle. And that's the simple fact of it. There is going to be failed crops all over the earth, and we're going to have literally a food shortage. And this isn't man-made. This isn't anything other than a cycle that the sun appears to go through. And it's demonstrable, it's researchable. The fact that you don't know about it doesn't mean it's not true. And in actually, what I'm going to say at this point, Brenda, you're saying that the sun is not going to sleep, idiot. Well, I'm going to play you back your own words. Yeah, so Brenda saying something's bullshit doesn't make it so. I'm playing them words back for you, my darling. Just because you don't believe it does not mean it's not true.
Yeah, all she's got to do is look up the Maunder minimum, and then look and see what's happening right now. It's the exact duplicate. And during the Maunder minimum, it was severe cold all over the earth.
Yeah, and it's weird because if you think about what's happening right now with all the green energy, the push for green energy, you got turbines, you got photovoltaic cells. I mean, obviously you've got Elon Musk who's pushing the photovoltaic cells. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love the idea of having like loads of solar panels all over the place, creating all my own energy and all that. But if this is actually the beginning of a cold period, there's no point in having solar panels, is there? If we're going to be that cold, there's not going to be a lot of light hitting the earth from whatever, whether it's a 93 million mile sun or not. It's still part of a cycle. We ain't going to be getting enough sun to make these photovoltaic panels like a sustainable investment because we're not going to be getting enough light. Oh, and Brenda says in chat that she does know about it, yet she still claims that the sun's not going to sleep. So if she knows about it, but still refused to accept that the sun's going to sleep, how does that make you look, Brenda, if you do know about it? I suspect you're talking bullshit and you don't know anything about it, and you're saying that you do because you're a troll and nothing more. I did see you in the hangout where you managed to trigger Vegan Warrior and then poked him 3 times thereafter to see what he would do, and then claimed that flat earthers were violent people. I mean, that's a foul, Brenda. You can't do that. You poked him 3 times after he'd already been triggered and then claimed that flat earthers were violent based on that. Bet he didn't go back and tell everybody that you were the one that caused it, though, were you? You were the one that triggered him. You were the one that poked him 3 times. You are the reason that he was triggered. No, you didn't go back and tell people that. You went and told people that flat earthers were violent people. What gives? Brenda says she doesn't
believe it. Why in the hell is she here?
Brenda said, "Oh, she's a troll. She's nothing more than a troll. She doesn't know what I mean by the sun is going to sleep, yet she does know about it. So you can't have it both ways, Brenda. If you don't know what I mean by the sun's going to sleep, go and research that phrase on YouTube and look at the evidence. There's enough evidence that shows that the sun is on a congruent cycle with 2 cycles at the same time, and they're overlapping right now, and it does it every X amount of years. Look into it and then come back and complain." Yeah, that's interesting as well. That was the one thing that I was going to mention about the eclipse. Good Times for All's just mentioned in chat now. He said he's got his camera, his thermometer and compass, and his welder's lens for eye viewing. It's all cloudy around here, but he's ready to go. I think that the compasses are going to act a little bit daft as well. I'm going to take a compass with me when I go and do my observations. Well, not actually, it won't make any difference for me because I'm not at totality. But it'd be interesting to see if the compass does do anything weird. So I don't know whether you get totality, Rich, but take your compass with you if you do get totality or even get close to it, because it might be worth doing it.
I get 60% here. It's going to start in about 15 minutes, and I'm going to hop off then so I can get started on it.
Sure. It's interesting because we're going to be seeing it in 15 minutes. No, it's an hour and 15 minutes, isn't it?
It's 9 a.m. here now.
All right, okay.
Remember, I don't change clocks here, so I'm always off of what people think it is by an hour.
Well, we're not expecting it for an hour yet. I'm going to have some food, and I'm going to make my way over there. But to be honest with you, I don't actually think I'm going to see anything because our weather at the moment is absolutely ridiculous. It's just a blanket of grey.
Yeah, Dave and Cardiff said the same thing. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, it's rubbish. Brenda Von Assen says, I know the total solar irradiance output is decreasing. Is that what you mean by going to sleep? No, I mean it's going to sleep as in it's in a long cycle, and we're gonna enter what looks like it's the start of a really, really, really cold patch that some would describe it as being an ice age. I'm not sure it's that severe, but it's definitely going to be cold, and people are going to start to suffer. We're going to get crops failing all over the earth that currently can sustain crops that can't do it anymore because they're not warm enough. There's going to be a food shortage. There is going to be weird shit happening. We are not in we're not in a turbulent time. We're in a reversal time. How do you explain the increase in surface temps recorded by Hadcrop 4? The chemtrails are basically reflecting a lot more sunlight into the earth because of the magnesium content of it. And that's what it's basically doing. They're artificially keeping it high, so basically not to cause panic amongst the people. If you look at the hard raw facts, the sun is beginning to turn. The sun's on a turn down, so you can't get around that. I don't think there's anything that we can do to stop it. We might be able to prolong it for a couple of months, maybe a year or so, which is why the chemtrails are going berserk at the minute. But I don't think there's anything that they can do to stop it. And the artificial sustaining of it is literally going to stop it and sustain it for a short period. But then it's going to crash, and it's going to be a very short, sharp fall. And we're all going to feel it. And I don't think there's anything. Chemtrails don't exist. What are you talking about? Brenda, are you blind? Chemtrails don't exist. It's ridiculous.
Blind as well as dumb.
Nathan, do you think chemtrails exist?
We can see them, so
Yeah.
What do you want me to say?
They're not contrails.
They're there, you can see them.
Yeah, they're not contrails that evaporate after a short period. They go on the whole length of the sky almost. It's ridiculous.
I don't know what they are. I just know that they pump them out the back of planes and they don't come out of all of them. So if
And we know that one of the major content of the chemtrails is magnesium dioxide, and that seems to reflect more light, and it looks as though they're reflecting light back into the earth, and they're trying to keep the light that's in the earth to keep it warm. That appears to be what they're doing. So it's an interesting world that we're going into for the next 5 years, because this global warming thing, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a global cooling, and it's going to go against all the odds, and people are going to realize that they've been taxed for emissions that are not doing anything, but it's part of a cycle. And that I believe they're propping it up artificially and holding out as long as they can. But you watch it. What mark my words, it's going to go cold, and we'll see it in the next 12 months. And this eclipse is the point where it's supposed to mark it as well. Look at Martin.
Mine's disagreeing adamantly.
I don't agree, Aunt mate. I agree with the cold snap when the Thames froze over for a decade, and it's working on cycles. There's no doubt about it. But Anthony, when I was a teenager, you remember the 80s. Septembers were always freezing. We had ice on the pavement. You used to slip going to school. Snow every year, thick, right the way through to April. When was the last time? I can't remember snow in the last 5 years at least. So it's warming up. It's definitely getting hotter. How can it getting hotter and showing evidence of it getting hotter prove that it's getting colder?
It's gonna get colder. Look at the
Answer that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go on.
Hiya.
You've got
Hi,
different
Nathan.
cycles.
Thanks for inviting me. Hi, Rich.
Hello.
Hi,
You've got
Rich.
7-year cycles, 11-year cycles, 20-year cycles, and there's a couple in between until you get to the Maunder minimum type of cycles. And as we were discussing in the group the other day, Tony, there's also a moon connection that people don't know about. Do you remember the talk from Chris about the moon moving north?
No, but go on, explain it so that people that didn't hear about it, that they know what you're on about.
Okay, I want to grab all the glory from Chris, but from what I understand from his work, he overlaid the moon's position, which over a long period of time drifts from the Tropic of Capricorn to the Tropic of Cancer when it's full. That's when he is measuring it. And over a very long period of time, as the moon is over the Tropic of Capricorn when it's full, it will stay that way. When it's full, it'll be near the Tropic of Capricorn for, let's say, 60 years. As it's slowly drifting northward, then it'll cross the equator. And then let's say after 120 years, it's over the Tropic of Cancer, the northern part. If you take that and overlay it with the cycles of the Earth, hot and cold, they match perfectly. As the moon moves north, as it crosses the equator and heads towards the Tropic of Cancer, we start to rapidly drop. The last time that happened was in the 1600s, and it coincided with the moon. It coincided with the sun going to sleep, so to speak, as you're calling it, Tony, at the same time. One causes the other. It's a magnetic effect. So this last so many years where it's been warmer is normal. You have those warm and colder cycles in between. The longer cycles are much stronger. I remember looking for a cold snap on the East Coast of the United States in 1978. I missed it by a year. It happened in 77, 78 winter, where the Chesapeake Bay froze over. I was looking for that 5 years in advance based on a 7-year cycle that met up with an 11-year cycle. It's a lot of different cycle work that's got to be done, and people have done this. So yes, it has been warmer lately at different parts of the Earth, but I think this very winter coming up, everybody's going to realize it's changing. I think it's this winter.
I agree. It's going to change this winter for the worse. We'll get snow. I mean, I agree with Martin. It's been warm. It's been unusually warm for the last 5 winters. We've not had proper snow for at least 5 winters. But I also agree that, or I also accept the evidence that the sun is in a solar cycle, and it is over, I think it's about 125 years, but also 400. But check it. If you don't believe what I'm saying, just go onto YouTube and type in, "Is the sun going to sleep?" And you'll see that there's articles about it that show evidence, empirical evidence, where they've collected data over hundreds of years, and it shows ups and downs, and it's predictable. And we've had the wave, we've had the warm bit, We're now coming on the bit where it's going to start going cold, and that's not good news for pretty much all of us. There's not many of us that'll survive, and if there ever was a subterranean class of humans, you're going to see them now, because we're going to have to literally go underground and take cover from this thing, because it's not going to be comfortable for us for the next period.
I do remember Brian Cox actually. Sorry, Martin. I do remember Brian Cox giving it. Hold on one sec, Martin. I do remember Brian Cox giving an explanation for this, albeit in the heliocentric model. But he described it like, if you imagine a guy with a dog walking down a beach, right, and the beach itself is the timeline, and as the guy walks, he will wander towards the shoreline and away from the shoreline, towards the shoreline and away from the shoreline. So he's like creating a wave, if you will. But behind him, he's got a dog on a lead, and the dog will meander along a much more frequent path than the guy walking the dog. In other words, if you imagine the guy is the seasons, and he's literally getting colder, getting warmer, getting colder, getting warmer, within that pattern, there's a similar cycle of warming and cooling within each season. So throughout the phases of the moon, you can track that warming and that cooling. It's cyclical. It's obvious once you realise. Anyway, that's my
yes, that's a perfect way of explaining it. And I could tell you a year in advance, and if I knew the cycles back then, because we didn't have the internet, you can tell when the moon changes cycle. Let's say it becomes let's say a half moon at 3:15 a.m. Within 3 days of that, you'd have a storm on the East Coast. I mean, almost like with 95% probability, and you could tell this a year in advance. The moon is very connected to the weather, and I think science has known this forever, and they've hidden it from us. There was a local almanac that I could not believe how well they could predict the weather in advance, and that's what they were using the moon. I dug into it one day and figured out what they were doing, and then they eventually published. That is exactly what they were doing. They were noticing when the changes of the moon's phase happened exactly, and that affected the weather on the East Coast anyway, a specific way. You'd have to apply that to other places around the world to see, okay, the moon's phase changes at 2:15 a.m. here. That means we're going to have sunny weather for the next 4 days. But anyway, it's uncanny accurate, much better than the Weather Service, I would say.
This is exactly what I was trying to say earlier with Stephen Chess. That's exactly what he's putting out on his channel. So he's just doing it, and you can just watch him do it. But obviously he's got enough knowledge to know exactly what phases the moon needs to be in, where the sun needs to be in relation to the moon for what transitions to occur. And because he's got all those patterns now cemented in his mind, he'll have bigger arguments with people over the weather, because in some ways it's almost more contentious than the shape of the earth. You know, it's something that people hold on to. They get the weather report in the morning. Half the people know that it's going to be total nonsense. Half the other people think it's going to be completely accurate, and that's exactly what it's going to do. The weatherman says it's going to be cold. Oh, I'm going to be wearing a coat. You go outside, and all the teenage kids who are very much more in tune with what's actually going on outside, they're all in shorts because they don't care what the weatherman says. It's just what's going on outside. You stick your head out the window.
I've never ever looked at the weather forecast and judged it. I've always stuck my head out the window and judged it for myself. And I mean, Martin, are you planning on doing any observations of the sun at this point of totality where the Americans are getting it?
Yeah, I've got I lent a pair of welding goggles off of the guy next door, so I can put them over the front of my camera to dull it down. I'm going to give it a go, because apparently we've got a partial eclipse at around between 8 and 9:40 tonight in the UK. They haven't announced it, but it is online. You can see it. It's on Wales Online. They're telling you not to look directly. So I'm going to give it a go.
It's at the point of totality in America, so whatever the local time is in America, we should be getting it as a simultaneous event. It shouldn't be delayed. If it's delayed, that doesn't support a heliocentric model. It has to be at exactly the same time because of the distance of the sun and the moon and all that. So yeah, you look at your weather. You've got the weather that I wish I had. And I've got I've just got a blanket sky of grey.
Well, this is something I was going to say earlier, Anthony. Are you still going to? I mean, obviously, when you go down there, you might find the weather breaks. You know, it's a different location, but you might find it completely breaks.
Yeah.
What are you showing us, Martin? Pictures of the sun?
Well, I was just wondering if the moon was anywhere near it, but not really. But it's giving me a sort of sun dog. But I just took a photo. It sort of shows me what I can't see. It's not really showing up. Well, yeah, it is actually.
Oh my God, what's this? I've just been given a link here that I might have to just share this because you need to see this. Live total solar eclipse 2017. Where's this from? Oh, the American solar eclipse is here. It will be visible across the right. So it's an American site, which I'm not asked about, but no offense, Rich, but it's not going to give me the information that I want. So it was a useful link if you're in America, but it's not a useful link if you're in the UK.
I'm surprised more people haven't jumped on what you're basically inquiring about, Anthony, because it must match. You know, you say it in jest, but when they say it has 100% predictive capability, you know, the amount of times I've heard Tim Osman say those words, well, that means something. You know, it means that it must be there. It must match up.
Yeah, it's because it does. It must match up, and if it doesn't, I'm going to be beating it about like a drum, because that's their model failing to predict and failing to be extremely intuitive the way that they claim that it is at all times, and it isn't doing what they say it's doing. And they'll just ignore it. They'll ignore it. They'll not address it. They'll not accept it as a fair criticism. They'll just bullshit it off as bullshit, and it's not acceptable. I mean, I don't even accept the idea that the new moon is invisible. I mean, anyway, if we tried arguing that part of that in the flat Earth model, if we tried to argue that the moon went invisible for a period, they would fucking laugh at it, right? So why should we accept it in reverse? Yo, okay.
What time are you heading out?
It looks like it looks like Cardiff and Plymouth both are going to get a break where you might be able to see it.
Yeah, we're going to go up in a bit because, I mean, I'm ready to go. I've got the camera, I've got the lens, I've got all the filters, I've got loads of batteries. It's all good. So I'm waiting to see if we... I mean, I'm going to go for something to eat literally now, and then we're going to make our way up there. But I'm not expecting to see anything, which is why I'm not going to go as far as...
How long from now?
For me, well, it's only about half an hour's drive for me. But I'm going to get there as early as I can because I want to see if there's anything that... Because I think there may be evidence of an eclipse from England at times before you guys get your eclipse, because let's think about it from a flat Earth perspective. If it is the case that the sun and the moon overtake each other, but instead of it being over North America, from our perspective, we see it over the North Atlantic somewhere. That means like 60 minutes before you guys get your high noon eclipse, we may see solar activity over the North Atlantic 60 minutes before. So if Martin's got clear blue skies, which he clearly has, Martin, get your welder's mask out and just see, can you see anything transit in the sun right now? Have you got your welder's mask?
We can't hear you, Martin. Are you on mute?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I just took photos. This camera shows what I can't see, and there's nothing there. It's not obscured in any way, and there's no moon near either.
Well, just keep taking pictures on your phone, Martin.
I will.
Well,
I'll keep a record.
On that subject, Martin, can I ask you a quick question, Martin? Which is, we had the quick round robin about this earlier. Do you think there is actually an interaction between those two celestial bodies when there's an eclipse, or do you think it's actually? Yes. You do think there's an interaction?
I do. I think the sunspots is clear evidence that something's connected with them both. The sunspots, really, a big load of sunspots. They weren't there a couple of weeks ago. This eclipse is happening. The sunspots, they're really extra charged ones. Hence why I'm getting a really bad cooking right now. It's so hot. You can feel the difference.
Sorry, are you saying there's less sunspots when there's a full moon? Is that what you're saying?
They affect you. Sorry.
Are you saying there's less sunspots when there is a full moon? In the flat Earth model, you'd have the moon and sun in opposition to each other at their furthest distance. Therefore, what you're putting forward is that therefore there'd be less sunspots because there's less interaction between them. Therefore, there is an interaction.
So. I'm just putting it out there. Look, I talked to a professor woman years ago. She came out, she said, "Excuse me, young man, put your shirts on, there's sunspots and it's more active and you'll get more radiation." And she was that was her field of study, was sunspots. She was an astrophysicist. So this was like 25 years ago. So it got me thinking about it back then. And I'd seen, not a total eclipse, but it was basically pitch black out here. It went icy cold, very, very unusual. So I've encountered an eclipse, but not like this. This has got more attention than any other eclipse in history. Why? I do not know. Have any other eclipse had this much attention? Is it because the flat earthers are here? I think so.
That could be a perception thing, Martin. It could just be that you're paying it more attention than perhaps you have before. Maybe. I certainly am. I know everybody on this panel is going to say the same thing. We're all paying a lot of attention. Same with the blood moon. I've seen eclipses before. That particular one was a lot more interesting.
Hey, Martin, where are you from?
Wales, Rich, in Cardiff, the capital.
Oh, very good. Very nice to meet you and talk with you.
Yeah, at last. I've been following you for about I don't know, maybe a decade. I don't know. I was following you when I was into prepping. No, a lot of the stuff I've done, I followed off you, Rich. You know, I got a big travel battery and all my solar panels and all my stuff, my purification tablets and everything from you back in the day. And then you went flat Earth, which was awesome. It was the same time as myself. So that was epic. Yeah, brilliant stuff.
I'm gonna have to get over there and meet you guys.
Oh, I wish. I'm having a big mixer, or hopefully a big mixer on the weekend. I'm going to call it a gathering of flat earthers. They turn up. We had one, myself and Nathan, back a month ago, and somewhere near 100 flat earthers turned up. Glorious feeling to meet other like-minded people. It really, really is. And so we're having one next weekend in Wales, so that's hopefully going to be a nice chilling buzz.
I'll get the full plug in, Martin. Yeah. So Sunday, 27th of August 2017 at the Big Clock Tower, Cardiff Bay. So be there.
I've just got to address this.
Something's going on in April, and things are looking where I might actually be able to get there in April. Not a great possibility, but I'm going to work on it.
For the conference, yeah?
Yes.
Oh, that would be epic, Rich, if you could do that. It would grab you on stage, definitely. Whew.
Listen, guys, I'm going to hop off because the eclipse is supposed to start in 2 minutes here, so I want to go out and take some pictures and see what's going on.
Good stuff. I'm going to round up this broadcast as well, guys.
If the eclipse is starting, I've got to go as well. I've got to eat my food and then I've got to go and do my stuff. So I'm going to stop.
A massive thank you before you go, Rich. Massive thank you to Rich, Mr. Thrive and Survive. If you're not subscribed to him, subscribe to Rich, Mr. Thrive and Survive. Big flat Earth superhero to me, and I'm sure to Martin. Also, thank you for joining us. And you're simulcasting this, so should I even say a thank you to you, Anthony? But yeah, thank you for being here. Much obliged.
I just want the record to show that I've now hit the magic dizzy heights of 1,000 subs, so that makes me a proper flat earther.
Kudos, big congrats, mate. Big congrats.
I need a badge.
Awesome. Right, I'm gonna disconnect your call then and be very rude so I can round out my audience. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and it was a pleasure to meet you, Rich.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, very much. Tony, can you get the channel name from Nathan for that guy that does the weather stuff? I'm very interested in that.
X Stranger XX. His name is Stephen Chess, so it's X Stranger XX.
Got it. Thank you very much. All right, guys, take care. Best of luck to you. Hopefully you can catch stuff.
See you later, guys, and I'll catch up with Martin and Anthony later. Thanks very much, guys.
I was going to say let's reconvene in a few hours once the eclipse has been and gone, and we'll see what notes we can compare.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds like a plan to me.
Take care now.
See you soon.
Alrighty.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Peace and love.
So that's going to be pretty much it for this broadcast. I'll transition over to me so I can say a big thank you to all of you who have joined this rather shambolic, if that's the word, shambles of a broadcast. It was mostly a technical exercise at the beginning of the show, so long pauses, gaps, and checking that everything works when we're simulcasting these streams. So one more big thank you to Anthony Riley, Martin Liedtke, and Rich, Mr. Thrive and Survive, for being on Flat Earth United. It's been a pleasure. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and when it reaches upload, comment below. I've been Nathan Oakley. I'll see you all in the next video.